My 4-year-old son called the wrong number when I passed out crying, Mummy collapsed. Unaware he called my billionaire ex-husband, not 9/11. Mommy collapsed. She's on the floor. There's blood on her mouth. She won't wake up. The voice on the other end of the phone went silent. Then, barely above a whisper, a man's voice cracked through the speaker. Felix, where's your mom? Is she there? The 4-year-old boy's hands trembled as he gripped the phone tighter. His Spider-Man pajamas were still damp from where he'd spilled juice earlier that morning. His bare feet were cold against the kitchen tiles. She won't wake up, the boy sobbed. Please come. Please. I don't know what to do. There was a sound on the other end. Something like a sharp intake of breath. Then the voice again. Steadier now, but filled with something the boy didn't understand. Urgency. Fear. Determination. Felix, listen to me. You did the right thing calling. You're so brave. I'm coming right now, okay? I need you to tell me where you are. The boy looked around the small kitchen. The peeling wallpaper with faded sunflowers. The refrigerator covered in his crayon drawings. The window that looked out onto the rusty fire escape. I don't know the address, he whispered. We live in the blue house. With the broken step. A pause. Then, blue house with a broken step. Is there anything else? A store nearby? A street sign? There's a park. Mommy takes me there. It has swings. On the other end of the line, a man named Knox Aldridge was already moving. Already pulling up databases on his laptop with one hand while holding the phone with the other. Already running through every resource at his disposal to find an address. Any address, connected to the woman he hadn't seen in 3 years. The woman who had walked out of his life with their son and never looked back. The woman now lying unconscious on a kitchen floor while their 4-year-old son called for help. Felix, I'm coming. Promise. Stay on the line with me. Okay? Can you do that? Okay, the small voice whispered. And that's where this story truly begins. Not with the phone call. Not with the collapse. But with the moment 3 years earlier when everything fell apart. When a marriage built on love crumbled under the weight of absence. When a woman named Tessa Brennan realized that being married to a man who was never home was lonelier than being alone. But we'll get to that. First, let me take you back to the moment that changed everything. The moment when the taste of copper filled Tessa's mouth and the world tilted sideways. It started on a Thursday morning in late November. The kind of cold that seeps through old windows and settles into your bones. Tessa Brennan stood at the kitchen counter of her small apartment above a shuttered laundromat on Langford Avenue, trying to pour coffee into a chipped mug while her hands trembled. She'd woken up dizzy. That wasn't unusual anymore. She'd been dizzy for weeks, tired for months, running on fumes for so long that she'd forgotten what it felt like to not be exhausted. The coffee pot felt heavier than it should. She set it down carefully, gripping the counter's edge. The laminate was peeling near the sink. She'd been meaning to fix that. Add it to the list of 1,000 things she'd been meaning to do but never had time for. Mommy, I'm hungry. Felix stood in the doorway wearing mismatched socks and his favorite Spider-Man pajamas. The ones with the hole in the knee that she kept meaning to patch. His dark hair stuck up in every direction. He had his father's eyes. Deep brown, almost black. The kind that seemed to see right through you. Tessa forced a smile. She'd gotten good at that. Forcing smiles when everything inside her felt like it was breaking. Come here, baby. Let's get you some breakfast. She moved toward the refrigerator. 3 steps. That's all it was. 3 simple steps across a kitchen that was barely 10 feet wide. But on the second step, something happened. The room tilted. Not slowly. All at once, like someone had yanked the floor out from under her. The edges of her vision went dark. Static filled her ears. Her mouth flooded with the metallic taste of copper. She reached for the counter but her hand found only air. The last thing Tessa Brennan remembered before the darkness took her was the sound of her son screaming her name. Mommy! Then nothing. Felix stood frozen in the doorway. His mother lay on the kitchen floor, one arm stretched out like she'd been trying to catch herself. Her hair covered half her face. There was blood. Just a little bit. On her bottom lip where she'd bitten down when she fell. She wasn't moving. Mommy? Felix took a small step forward. His voice was tiny, scared. "Mommy, wake up." Nothing. He moved closer, knelt down beside her, touched her shoulder with one small hand. "Mommy, please wake up." Her chest moved, up and down, slow. She was breathing, but she wouldn't open her eyes. Felix felt something tight in his chest, like when he held his breath underwater for too long at the community pool, like he couldn't get enough air. But he remembered what Mommy told him. She'd made him practice, made him memorize it. If something bad happens, baby, you call 911. You press the phone and you tell them Mommy needs help. Can you do that for me? Felix had nodded. He could do that. He was a big boy, 4.5 years old, almost 5. He climbed onto the chair. His mother's phone was on the kitchen table, plugged into the charger. The screen was cracked in one corner. Felix knew how to open it. Mommy had shown him. Swipe up, press the numbers. But his hands were shaking, and his eyes were blurry with tears, and the numbers looked all jumbled together. 911. He tried to press them, but his fingers slipped. He tried again, but the tears were falling now and he couldn't see. And then he saw something else. Not numbers. A name. Daddy. Felix knew that name. Mommy didn't talk about Daddy very much, but she'd shown him pictures once. When he'd asked why all the other kids at daycare had daddies who picked them up, but he didn't. Mommy had gotten very quiet. Then she'd pulled out her phone and showed him a picture. A man with dark hair and dark eyes and a smile that looked a little bit sad. "That's your daddy," Mommy had said. Her voice was soft. "He's far away, but he loves you very, very much." Felix had asked when Daddy was coming home. Mommy had started crying. Not loud crying. The quiet kind. The kind she did sometimes late at night when she thought Felix was asleep. "I don't know, baby," she'd whispered. Now, standing in the kitchen with his mother unconscious on the floor, Felix looked at that name on the phone screen. Daddy. Mommy said to call 911, but Felix didn't know how to dial it. And Daddy's name was right there. And Mommy said Daddy loved him very much. Felix pressed the name. The phone rang. Once. Twice. "Please pick up," Felix whispered. "Please, please pick up." 3 rings. 4. Then a voice. Deep. A little rough, like he'd just woken up. But calm. "Tessa?" Felix's breath hitched. "This isn't Tessa." A pause. Longer this time. Then softer. "Who is this?" "I'm Felix." The words tumbled out fast. Scared. Mommy collapsed. "She's on the floor. There's blood on her mouth. She won't wake up." Another pause. But this one was different. This one felt like the whole world had stopped moving. Then the voice again. Different now. Urgent. Focused. "Felix, where's your mom? Is she there?" "She's right here. On the floor. She won't open her eyes." Felix's voice broke into a sob. "Please come. Please. I don't know what to do." On the other end of the line, 58 floors above the city in a penthouse that cost more per month than most people made in a year, Knox Aldridge stood perfectly still. He was barefoot, still wearing the clothes from yesterday because he hadn't bothered to go to bed. A half-empty glass of whiskey sat on the marble kitchen counter beside his laptop, which was still open to a presentation he'd been reviewing at 3 in the morning. The name flashing on his phone screen had stopped his heart. Tessa. 3 years. 3 years of silence. 3 years of wondering if she thought about him the way he thought about her. 3 years of staring at his phone hoping she'd call, knowing she wouldn't, and now she was. Except it wasn't her voice on the other end. It was a child. A small, terrified child. His child. "Felix," Knox said, forcing his voice to stay calm even though his heart was hammering against his ribs. "Listen to me very carefully, okay? You did exactly the right thing by calling me. You're so brave. I'm going to help. But I need you to tell me where you are. Do you know your address?" The boy sniffled. "I don't know the number." "That's okay. That's okay, buddy. Is there anything you can see out the window? Any stores or signs?" "There's a park. With swings. Mommy takes me there every day. Knox's mind raced. Park. That could be anywhere. Think. What color is your house? Felix? Blue. It's blue. And the step is broken. Mommy says we have to be careful. Blue house. Broken step. It wasn't much, but it was something. Knox was already moving. Phone pressed between his ear and shoulder. He grabbed his laptop and pulled up the property database he'd had his legal team compile 2 years ago when he tried to find Tessa. When he'd finally accepted that she didn't want to be found and had stopped looking. But the data was still there. Tessa M. Brennan. He typed the name with shaking fingers. 3 addresses popped up. 2 were old, marked inactive. The third showed an active utility account. 1487 Langford Avenue, Unit B, South Side. 20-minute drive. Knox's breath came out in a rush. Felix, I know where you are. I'm coming right now. I need you to stay on the phone with me. Okay? Don't hang up. Okay, the small voice whispered. Knox grabbed his keys. His coat. He was out the door in 10 seconds. The elevator took too long. He took the stairs. 58 flights. His legs burned, but he didn't slow down. He hit the parking garage at a dead run. The SUV roared to life. Knox, still on the phone, pulled out onto the street. Felix, I'm in my car now. Talk to me, buddy. Tell me about your favorite thing. What do you like to play? A small sniffle. Spider-Man. I have a costume. Mommy got it for my birthday. That sounds really cool. I bet you look just like a superhero. Mommy says I'm her superhero. Knox's throat tightened. She's right. You are. You're being so brave right now. The city blurred past. Knox ran 2 red lights. Then 3. He didn't care. Every second mattered. Is Mommy still breathing? Felix? A pause. Then I think so. Her tummy is moving up and down. That's good. That's really good. I'm almost there. The south side streets were narrower. Older. Buildings with chipped paint and boarded windows. Chain-link fences and overgrown lots. This wasn't the part of the city Knox knew. This wasn't the world he lived in. But this was where she'd been. For 3 years. While he lived in a penthouse. While he closed billion-dollar deals. While he told himself he'd done everything he could. Guilt crashed over him like a wave. There. The blue house. Exactly as Felix described. A faded duplex with peeling paint and a cracked front step. A rusty chain-link fence. Weeds growing through cracks in the sidewalk. Knox abandoned the SUV in the middle of the street. He didn't bother parking. Didn't turn off the engine. He ran. Felix, I'm here. I'm at your front door. The line went quiet for a moment. Then the sound of small footsteps. The door creaked open. And there he was. 4 years old. Dark hair. Dark eyes. Spider-Man pajamas. Tear-streaked face. Phone clutched in both hands. Knox's heart shattered and mended all at once. He dropped to his knees in front of the boy. I level. You came. Felix whispered. I did. Knox's voice was rough. I'll always come. Always. Felix threw his small arms around Knox's neck. Knox held him. Just for a second. Just long enough to feel the tiny heartbeat against his chest. To smell the kid shampoo in his hair. To memorize the weight of his son in his arms. Then he pulled back gently. Where's Mommy? Felix pointed inside. Kitchen. Knox stood. Took Felix's hand. Okay. Show me. The apartment was small. Smaller than Knox's walk-in closet. The furniture was old but clean. There were toys stacked neatly in a corner. Books on a makeshift shelf. Children's drawings taped to the walls. And in the kitchen, on the faded linoleum floor, was Tessa. Knox's world stopped. She lay on her side. One arm tucked beneath her. Her hair, longer now than he remembered, spilled across the floor. Her skin was pale. Too pale. A thin sheen of sweat covered her forehead. Her lips were parted slightly, the bottom one cut where she'd bitten down. But she was breathing. Shallow. Uneven. But breathing. Knox moved fast. He knelt beside her. Checked her pulse. Weak but steady. No visible injuries except the split lip. But something was very wrong. Tessa, he said softly. His hand brushed the hair back from her face. It's me. I'm here. Her eyelids fluttered but didn't open. Knox looked up at Felix, who stood in the doorway watching with wide, terrified eyes. Felix, I need you to grab Mommy's coat and yours. Okay? We're going to take her to the hospital. Is she going to die? The question hit Knox like a punch to the gut. No, he said firmly. She's going to be okay. Promise. You promise? Promise. Felix ran to get the coats. Knox turned back to Tessa. He slid one arm under her shoulders, one under her knees, lifted her carefully. She felt too light, like she weighed nothing, like she'd been disappearing and no one had noticed. How long had she been like this? How long had she been struggling? The questions burned in Knox's mind, but there was no time for answers. He carried her out of the apartment, down the narrow stairs, out into the cold November morning. Felix followed, clutching both coats. Knox laid Tessa across the back seat of the SUV. Felix climbed in beside her. Knox buckled him in. Then he got behind the wheel and drove. The nearest hospital was 14 minutes away. Knox made it in 8. He didn't go to the emergency entrance. He went straight to the front doors. Parked illegally. Didn't care. He carried Tessa through the sliding glass doors, into the bright fluorescent lights, past the check-in desk. A security guard stepped forward. Sir, I need a doctor. Now. The guard opened his mouth to argue, but something in Knox's face stopped him. A nurse in blue scrubs looked up, saw Tessa unconscious in Knox's arms, saw the pale skin, the shallow breathing. Get me a gurney, she called over her shoulder. Then to Knox, what happened? She collapsed. Maybe 15, 20 minutes ago. She's unresponsive. Weak pulse. The gurney appeared. Knox laid Tessa down gently. The medical team swarmed. Vitals. For oxygen mask. They wheeled her toward the trauma bay. Knox started to follow, but a nurse held up a hand. Sir, we need you to wait here. We'll update you as soon as we can. I'm not leaving her. The nurse's expression softened. Are you family? Knox hesitated. The truth was complicated. But technically, legally, he still was. I'm her husband. It wasn't a complete lie. The divorce papers had been drawn up 3 years ago, but neither of them had ever signed. The nurse nodded. Wait in the family area. Someone will come talk to you. Knox watched as they wheeled Tessa through the double doors. Watched until she disappeared from view. Then he looked down. Felix stood beside him, small hand gripping Knox's fingers. Is Mommy going to be okay? Knox knelt down, looked his son in the eye. She's with the doctors now. They're going to take very good care of her. Can we see her? Soon. We have to wait a little bit. Felix nodded solemnly. Then he did something that broke Knox completely. He leaned forward and wrapped his arms around Knox's neck. I'm glad you came, Daddy. Knox held his son and tried not to cry. Me too, buddy. Me too. The family waiting area smelled like antiseptic and bad coffee. The chairs were hard plastic. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A television in the corner played the morning news with the sound off. Knox sat with Felix on his lap. The boy hadn't let go of him since they arrived. He clung to Knox like a lifeline. Are you hungry? Knox asked gently. Felix shook his head. When was the last time you ate? The boy thought about it. Last night. Mommy made mac and cheese. Knox's jaw tightened. What about breakfast? Mommy was going to make it. But then she fell down. It was almost 9 in the morning. The kid hadn't eaten in over 12 hours. Come on, Knox said, standing up with Felix still in his arms. Let's find you something to eat. But what if the doctor comes? I'll keep my phone with me. They'll call if anything changes. Knox carried Felix through the hospital corridors until they found a cafeteria. It was mostly empty at this hour. A few nurses on break. A doctor getting coffee. Knox set Felix down in a chair and went to get food. Scrambled eggs. Toast. Fruit. Juice. When he came back, Felix was sitting very still, staring at the table. Here, buddy. Try to eat something. Felix picked at the eggs. Took a small bite. Then another. Knox watched him. Really looked at him for the first time. The boy was thin, not alarmingly so, but enough that Knox noticed. His clothes were clean but worn. The Spider-Man pajamas had been washed so many times the colors were faded. "Do you like school?" Knox asked, trying to keep the conversation normal. Felix nodded. "I go to Little Stars daycare. Miss Hannah is my teacher." "What's your favorite thing to do there?" "I like the blocks. I build towers. Really tall ones." "What else do you like?" Felix thought about it while chewing a piece of toast. "I like when Mommy picks me up. She's always really happy to see me." "Does she pick you up every day?" "Sometimes she's late. Because of work. But she always comes." "What kind of work does Mommy do?" Felix's small face scrunched up. "She cleans buildings. At night. And she works at the store with the clothes. And sometimes people bring her broken things and she fixes them." Knox's chest tightened. 3 jobs. She was working 3 jobs. "Does Mommy have any friends who help? Or family?" Felix shook his head. "Just us. But that's okay because we have each other." The simple statement carried a weight that made Knox want to break something. For 3 years, Tessa had been doing this alone. Raising their son alone. Working herself to exhaustion. While Knox lived in a penthouse and pretended he'd done everything he could. He hadn't. He'd given up. He'd let his pride and his hurt keep him from fighting for them. And now she was in a hospital bed because she'd pushed herself past the breaking point. Knox's phone buzzed. A text from his assistant. "Emergency board meeting at 11. Singapore deal needs your approval." Knox stared at the message. Then he typed back. "Cancel it. I'm not available." The response came immediately. "Knox, this is a $1 billion deal. You can't." He didn't read the rest. He turned his phone off and put it in his pocket. Felix was watching him. "Is that your work?" "Yeah." "Do you have to go?" "No. I'm staying right here with you." Felix smiled. It was a small smile. Tentative. But real. "My mommy talks about you sometimes." Knox's heart stopped. "She does?" Felix nodded. "When she thinks I'm asleep. She looks at pictures on her phone and cries." Knox had to look away. Had to blink hard against the burning in his eyes. "What does she say?" Felix shrugged. "I don't know all the words. But she sounds sad." Before Knox could respond, his phone buzzed again. But this time it wasn't his assistant. It was a call from the hospital line. He answered immediately. "Yes, Mr. Aldridge? This is Dr. Patel. Your wife is stable. She's waking up. You can come see her now." "Thank you. We're on our way." Knox scooped up Felix and headed back to the emergency department. They were directed to a small room at the end of the hall. The door was partially open. Knox paused just outside. Took a breath. He hadn't seen Tessa in 3 years. Hadn't heard her voice except in dreams. And now she was on the other side of this door. He pushed it open. The room was small. Sterile. A single bed with white sheets. Monitors beeping softly. And 4 stand. And there, sitting up slightly, was Tessa. She looked different. Thinner. Older in a way that had nothing to do with age and everything to do with exhaustion. Her hair was longer, pulled back in a messy ponytail. There were shadows under her eyes. But she was still the most beautiful thing Knox had ever seen. Tessa's eyes were closed. Her head rested back against the pillow. But when the door opened, she turned. And their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them moved. Neither of them breathed. Then Felix squirmed in Knox's arms. "Mommy!" Tessa's face crumpled. "Baby. Oh baby, come here." Knox set Felix down and the boy ran to the bed. Tessa pulled him close, holding him tight, her face buried in his hair. "I'm okay," she whispered. "Mommy's okay. I'm so sorry I scared you." Felix was crying now. "You wouldn't wake up. I was so scared." I know, baby. But you were so brave. You did exactly what you were supposed to do." She looked up then. At Knox, standing just inside the door, hands in his pockets, looking like he didn't know whether to stay or go. Tessa's breath caught. Knox. His name on her lips after 3 years of silence. Tessa. They stared at each other. 1,000 words unspoken between them. Finally, Tessa managed to find her voice. "What are you doing here?" Knox took a step closer. "Felix called me." Tessa blinked. confused. What? He thought he was calling 911. But your phone. My number is still saved. Tessa's face went pale, then red. Oh God, I didn't think. I'm so sorry. You didn't have to, I wanted to, Knox interrupted. His voice was quiet but firm. He called and said you collapsed. I came. Tessa looked down at Felix, who was still pressed against her side. You called Daddy? The boy nodded. I didn't know the numbers for 911, but I saw Daddy's name, so I pressed it. Smart thinking, Tessa whispered, but her eyes were shining with tears. Knox moved closer, pulled up a chair, sat down. The doctor said you're stable, but they're running more tests. Tessa nodded. I'm fine. I don't know. I got dizzy. This happened before but never like this. How long? Tessa hesitated. A few weeks. Maybe a month. Knox's jaw tightened. And you didn't go to the doctor? Tessa laughed. But it was a bitter sound. With what insurance, Knox? I lost my coverage when I left my job. Do you know how much it costs to see a doctor without insurance? Silence. Then Knox said very quietly, you should have called me. Tessa's eyes flashed. For what? Money? For help? I don't need your help. Clearly you do. The words hung in the air. Sharp. Painful. Tessa looked away. You should go. Thank you for bringing me here. But we'll be fine. Knox didn't move. I'm not going anywhere. Knox, Tessa, you collapsed. You were unconscious. Our son found you on the floor and didn't know if you were alive or dead. So no, I'm not going anywhere. Not until I know you're okay. Tessa opened her mouth to argue, but the door opened and a doctor walked in. She was in her 50s, wearing a white coat, carrying a tablet. Ms. Brennan, I'm Dr. Patel. How are you feeling? Tessa forced a smile. Better. A little embarrassed. Dr. Patel pulled up a stool. No need for embarrassment. But we do need to talk about what happened. She glanced at Knox. Are you family? He's my, Tessa hesitated. Ex-husband. Dr. Patel looked between them. Would you like privacy? Tessa started to say yes, but Knox spoke first. I'd like to stay, if that's okay. Tessa looked at him. Then at Felix, who was still curled against her. Finally she nodded. It's fine. Dr. Patel looked down at her tablet. Ms. Brennan, your blood work shows some concerning markers. Severe anemia, dangerously low blood sugar, and your white blood cell count is abnormal. Tessa's face went pale. What does that mean? Could mean a few different things. We need to run more comprehensive tests to be sure. But combined with your symptoms, chronic fatigue, dizziness, weight loss, I'm concerned. Concerned about what? Dr. Patel's expression was kind but serious. We need to rule out some possibilities. Thyroid dysfunction, autoimmune disorders, and she paused, possibly other conditions. She didn't say the word, but it hung in the air anyway. Cancer. Tessa's hand tightened on Felix's shoulder. When will we know? We're expediting the tests. I'd like to keep you here overnight for observation, and we should have preliminary results by tomorrow afternoon. Tessa nodded numbly. In the meantime, Dr. Patel continued, you need rest, fluids, and I'm prescribing iron supplements immediately. Your levels are critically low. Okay. Do you have someone who can help you at home? Family? Friends? Tessa's laugh was hollow. No, it's just me. Dr. Patel glanced at Knox, then back to Tessa. I'll leave you to rest. A nurse will be in shortly to get you set up in a room upstairs. She left. The silence that followed was deafening. Finally, Felix spoke up, his small voice breaking the tension. Mommy, are you sick? Tessa pulled him close. I'm gonna be fine, baby. The doctors just want to make sure. But Felix was 4. He didn't understand medical jargon. He only understood that his mother had been on the floor and now doctors were saying scary words. I don't want you to be sick. I'm not, sweetheart. Promise. But Tessa's voice wavered. Knox stood. Felix, how about you and I go find a vending machine? Let mommy rest for a minute. Felix looked uncertain. It's okay, Tessa said softly. Go with daddy. I'll be right here. The word hit Knox in the chest. Daddy. She called him Daddy. Felix slid off the bed and took Knox's hand. Knox led him out into the hallway, leaving Tessa alone with her thoughts and her fears. They found a vending machine near the elevator bay. Knox bought Felix a pack of crackers and a juice box. The boy sat on the floor, legs crossed, carefully opening the package. Knox leaned against the wall, watching him. This was his son. This small, brave, incredible kid. And Knox had missed 4 years of his life. 4 years of first words and first steps. 4 years of bedtime stories and scraped knees. 4 years of being a father. And he couldn't get them back. But maybe, if Tessa would let him, he could be there for the rest. Felix looked up at him. Are you going to stay? Knox crouched down to his level. Do you want me to stay? Felix nodded. Mommy needs help. And I can't carry her. I'm too small. Knox's throat tightened. You're not too small, buddy. You saved her life today. You called for help. That's the bravest thing anyone can do. Felix thought about that. Then he asked, why don't you live with us? The question was so innocent, so direct, and Knox had no good answer. It's complicated, he said finally. Did you and Mommy have a fight? Sort of. Are you still mad at her? Knox shook his head. No, I was never mad at her. Is she mad at you? I think so. And I think she has every right to be. Why? Because I wasn't there when she needed me. Felix took a sip of his juice. You're here now. Those 3 words. So simple. So true. Yeah, Knox said softly. I'm here now. They sat in silence for a minute. Then Felix said, I think Mommy still loves you. Knox's heart stopped. What makes you say that? Because she cries when she looks at your picture. And she only cries about people she loves. Like Grandma. Grandma died and Mommy cried a lot. Knox didn't know Tessa's mother had passed. Another thing he'd missed. I'm sorry about your grandma. I don't remember her much. I was little. Felix finished his crackers and stood up. Can we go back to Mommy now? Yeah. Let's go. When they returned to the room, Tessa had been moved upstairs to a private room. A nurse directed them to the 3rd floor. The new room was bigger. A real bed instead of a gurney. A chair that folded out into a cot. A window that looked out over the city. Tessa was sitting up, still connected to the 4, but looking more alert. Felix ran to her. We got crackers. That's good, baby. Knox hung back by the door. Tessa looked at him. You don't have to stay. I know, but you're going to anyway. Yes. She sighed. Knox, I appreciate what you did today. Really. But we'll be fine. You have a life. Company. I'm sure you have things. The company can wait. It's a billion-dollar company. And you're the mother of my son. There's no comparison. Tessa looked away. I can't do this right now. Do what? This? Whatever this is. I'm too tired. Then don't. Just rest. I'll be here. Why? Because 3 years ago you needed me and I wasn't there. I'm not making that mistake again. Tessa's eyes filled with tears. Don't do this. Do what? Act like you care now just because you feel guilty. I do feel guilty, Knox said quietly. I feel guilty every single day. But that's not why I'm here. I'm here because when Felix called and said you were hurt, I realized something. What? That I never stopped loving you. The words hung in the air. Tessa stared at him, tears streaming down her face. Knox, she whispered. Don't. It's the truth. The truth is you chose your company over your family. You're right. I did. And I've regretted it every day since. Then why didn't you come after me? I did. For months. But you made it clear you didn't want to be found. And I thought maybe you were better off without me. Tessa laughed through her tears. Better off? Knox, I've been working 3 jobs just to keep a roof over our heads. I skip meals so Felix can eat. I haven't been to a doctor in 2 years because I can't afford it. Does that sound better off to you? Knox felt like he'd been punched. I didn't know. How could you? You stopped looking. Because you asked me to. His voice rose and Felix looked up, startled. Both of them stopped, took a breath. Knox lowered his voice. You filed a restraining order, Tessa. Your lawyer told mine that if I came near you or Felix, you'd press charges. What was I supposed to do? Tessa's face went white. I never filed a restraining order. Yes, you did. My lawyer showed me the paperwork. Knox, I swear to you I never... She stopped. Her face changed. Realization dawning. What? Your lawyer. What was his name? Marcus Hale. Why? Tessa closed her eyes. Oh God. What? Talk to me. My lawyer. The one I hired to handle the separation. His name was Richard Crane. He worked for the same firm as your lawyer. Okay. And he told me you'd signed away all parental rights to Felix. That you wanted nothing to do with us. Knox felt the floor drop out from under him. What? He showed me paperwork. Signatures. He said you'd made it clear you didn't want to be a father. Tessa, I never signed anything like that. I fought for joint custody. I wanted to be in Felix's life. Then why didn't you ever call? Why didn't you show up? Because I was told you'd get a restraining order if I did. They stared at each other. The truth settling over them like cold water. Someone had lied to them. Someone had kept them apart. And for 3 years they'd both believed it. Knox pulled out his phone, turned it back on, scrolled through old emails until he found what he was looking for. Here. He handed the phone to Tessa. Read the date on this email. Tessa took the phone. Read. Her hands started shaking. It was an email from Knox's lawyer to Tessa's lawyer, dated 3 weeks after she'd left. The subject line read, Client requests mediation for joint custody arrangement. The email detailed Knox's proposal. 50-50 custody. Full financial support. Whatever Tessa needed to make co-parenting work. At the bottom was a response from Richard Crane, Tessa's lawyer. Client declines. Requests no further contact. Will pursue restraining order if client continues to initiate communication. Tessa's face went ashen. I never said that. I never even saw this email. Knox took the phone back. And I never saw this. He pulled up another email. Showed her. It was from Richard Crane to Marcus Hale. Dated 2 days after Tessa had left. Client wishes to terminate all parental rights. Requests client sign formal documentation relinquishing custody and financial responsibility. Below it, Marcus Hale had responded to Knox. Tessa is requesting you sign away your rights to Felix. She's made it clear she doesn't want you involved. I advise you to respect her wishes. Knox's voice was tight. I told Marcus I wouldn't sign. I said I wanted to fight for my son. He told me that dragging you through a custody battle would only hurt Felix. That the kindest thing I could do was step back and let you move on. Tessa was crying openly now. Richard told me the same thing. He said fighting you in court would bankrupt me. That you had an army of lawyers and I had nothing. He said the best thing for Felix was to let you go. They were played. 2 lawyers from the same firm had deliberately kept them apart. Had fabricated documents. Had lied to both of them. But why? Knox's mind was already working. Marcus Hale had been his lawyer for years. Handled everything from contracts to personal matters. He'd been the one to suggest Richard Crane when Tessa needed representation. Said he was the best family lawyer in the city. That he'd take care of her. And he had. Just not in the way Knox had intended. I'm going to destroy him, Knox said quietly. Tessa looked up. What? Marcus Hale. Richard Crane. Both of them. I'm going to make sure they never practice law again. Knox, we don't even know if I'll get proof. I'll hire investigators. Forensic accountants. I'll dig into every case they've ever handled. And when I find the evidence, and I will find it, I'm going to bury them. Tessa wiped her eyes. Why would they do this? I don't know yet, but I'm going to find out. A soft knock interrupted them. A nurse peeked in. Sorry to interrupt. I just need to check vitals. Tessa nodded. The nurse came in, checked the monitors, made notes on a tablet. Everything looks stable. Try to get some rest. Doctor will be back in the morning with your test results. Thank you. The nurse left. Felix had curled up on the chair, fighting sleep. Knox stood. I should let you rest. Where are you going? To take Felix home. Get him cleaned up. Federal. Then I'll bring him back. Tessa's face crumpled. You're taking him? Just for a few hours. He needs food. A bath. Sleep. Knox, I can't. I can't be away from him right now. Tessa, you need to rest. And he needs taking care of. Let me do this. What if something happens? What if the test results, then I'll bring him right back. Promise. Tessa looked at Felix. Her baby. She hadn't been away from him for more than a few hours since he was born. But Knox was right. Felix needed care. And she could barely sit up without getting dizzy. Okay, she whispered. But you bring him back first thing in the morning. First thing. Promise. Knox walked over to Felix. Gently scooped him up. The boy stirred but didn't wake. Tessa watched them. Her son in the arms of the man she'd loved. Still loved. Had never stopped loving. Knox paused at the door. Looked back at her. Tessa. Yeah. I meant what I said. I never stopped loving you. Then he was gone. Tessa lay back against the pillows and let herself cry. Really cry. For the first time in 3 years. Knox carried Felix through the hospital parking lot. The boy was dead weight in his arms. Exhausted. The adrenaline from the morning finally wearing off. Knox buckled him into the back seat of the SUV. Found a blanket in the trunk and tucked it around him. Then he got behind the wheel and just sat there for a moment. His son was in his car. His son. The child he'd only seen in photographs for 4 years. And Tessa. God. Tessa. Still beautiful. Still strong. Even broken and exhausted in a hospital bed. She was the strongest person he'd ever known. And someone had deliberately kept them apart. Knox pulled out his phone. Dialed a number. It rang twice before a crisp voice answered. Aldridge Residence. Mrs. Chun, it's Knox. I need you to prepare the guest room. I'm bringing someone home. Of course, sir. How many guests? 1. A 4-year-old boy. There was a pause. Mrs. Chun had been Knox's housekeeper for a decade. She knew he didn't have children. At least she thought he didn't. His name is Felix, Knox continued. He'll need clothes, toiletries, toys if we have any. And I'll need you to make something kid-friendly for dinner. Right away, sir. Thank you. Knox hung up, started the car, and drove home. The penthouse was exactly as he'd left it that morning. A lifetime ago. Mrs. Chun met him at the door. Her eyes went wide when she saw the sleeping child in his arms. This is Felix, Knox said quietly. My son. Mrs. Chun, to her credit, didn't ask questions. She simply nodded. I've prepared the guest room. I'll make grilled cheese and soup for dinner. Perfect. Thank you. Knox carried Felix to the guest room. It had been converted. The bed had race car sheets. There were stuffed animals on the shelf. A small bookcase with children's books. Mrs. Chun worked fast. Knox laid Felix on the bed, took off his shoes, covered him with a blanket. The boy stirred, opened his eyes halfway. Daddy? The word still hit Knox like a freight train. I'm here, buddy. Go back to sleep. Where's Mommy? She's at the hospital. But she's okay. You'll see her in the morning. Felix's eyes drifted shut again. Okay. Knox sat on the edge of the bed, watched his son sleep, memorized every detail. The way his hair fell across his forehead, the small scar on his chin, the rise and fall of his chest. For years. He'd missed 4 years of this. But he wasn't going to miss any more. An hour later, Felix woke up. Confused at first by the unfamiliar room. But then he saw Knox sitting in the chair by the window and relaxed. Hi, Daddy. Hey, buddy. How do you feel? Hungry? Knox smiled. Let's get you some food. He took Felix to the kitchen. Mrs. Chun had made grilled cheese cut into triangles and tomato soup. Felix ate like he was starving. Knox watched him. When was the last time you had a meal like this? Felix shrugged. Mommy makes grilled cheese sometimes. But we ran out of cheese last week. What have you been eating? cereal, peanut butter sandwiches. Sometimes mommy brings home pizza from her work. Knox's jaw tightened. And your mom? What does she eat? She says she's not hungry. But I think she's just saving food for me. Knox had to look away, had to take a breath. After dinner, he gave Felix a bath. The boy splashed and played with a rubber duck Mrs. Chun had found somewhere. Knox knelt beside the tub, helped wash Felix's hair. The simple act of caring for his child filled something in Knox he hadn't known was empty. After the bath, Knox found pajamas that Mrs. Chun had bought. They were a little big, but Felix didn't seem to mind. These are nice, Felix said, running his hands over the soft fabric. You like them? Felix nodded. Can I keep them? Of course. And can I come back here again? Knox crouched down. I level. Felix, I want you to come here as much as you want. This is your home too. Felix's eyes went wide. Really? Really? What about mommy? Can she come too? Knox's heart clenched. I hope so. They settled on the couch. Knox turned on a kid's movie. Felix curled up against him. Halfway through the movie, Felix spoke. Daddy? Yeah. Why did you leave? Knox's breath caught. I didn't leave, buddy. I wanted to be with you. But grown-up stuff happened and it got complicated. Did you not want me? Knox turned Felix to face him. Looked him straight in the eye. Felix, listen to me. I have wanted you every single day since you were born. I have thought about you every single day. And if I could go back and change things, I would. But I can't. All I can do is promise you that I'm here now. And I'm not going anywhere. Felix's eyes filled with tears. I wanted you too. I used to ask mommy when you were coming home. Knox pulled him close. I'm so sorry. They sat like that for a long time. Father and son. Making up for lost time. Eventually, Felix fell asleep against Knox's chest. Knox carried him back to the bedroom, tucked him in. Then he went to his office, closed the door, and made a phone call. The phone rang 4 times before a tired voice answered. Do you know what time it is? I need a favor, Knox said. The voice on the other end sighed. Of course you do. What is it? I need you to investigate 2 lawyers, Marcus Hale and Richard Crane. I need everything, every case, every transaction, every shady deal they've ever touched. And I need it fast. How fast? By tomorrow. Knox, that's impossible. Then make it possible. I'll pay whatever it takes. What am I looking for? Proof that they conspired to keep me from my son. Proof that they fabricated documents and lied to both me and my ex-wife. Proof that will end their careers. A pause. This is personal. Very. All right. I'll see what I can find. Thank you. Knox hung up, leaned back in his chair, looked out at the city lights. Somewhere out there, Tessa was lying in a hospital bed. Alone. Scared. Waiting for test results that could change everything. And Knox couldn't be there. But he would be. As soon as the sun came up, he'd take Felix back to her. And he'd stay. For as long as she'd let him. Because he'd wasted 3 years. And he wasn't wasting another day. Knox didn't sleep that night. He sat in his office going through old files. Old emails. Every communication between him and Marcus Hale. Looking for clues. For inconsistencies. For anything that proved what he already knew in his gut. 3 in the morning he found something. An email from Marcus to an unknown recipient. Dated the week after Tessa left. The subject line read, Phase 1 complete. The body of the email was brief. Client separated from wife as planned. Custody dispute in motion. Will ensure neither party reconciles. Proceed to Phase 2. Knox stared at the screen. As planned. Someone had planned this. Someone had wanted Knox and Tessa apart. But who? And why? Knox forwarded the email to his investigator. Then kept digging. By morning he had a stack of evidence. Emails. Financial transactions. Communications between Marcus and Richard that proved they'd been working together. But he still didn't know who was pulling the strings. At 6 in the morning, Felix padded into the office, rubbing his eyes. Daddy? Knox turned. Hey buddy, you're up early. I had a bad dream. Come here. Felix climbed into Knox's lap. Knox wrapped his arms around him. You want to talk about it? Felix shook his head. Can we see Mommy now? Yeah. Let's get you dressed and we'll go. Knox helped Felix get ready. Mrs. Chun had breakfast waiting. Pancakes and bacon. Felix ate quickly. Then they were in the SUV heading back to the hospital. The city was just waking up. The streets were quiet. The sun was starting to rise, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Felix pressed his face to the window, watching the world go by. Daddy? Yeah. Are you and Mommy going to be together again? Knox didn't know how to answer that. He wanted to say yes, wanted to promise this little boy that they'd be a family. But he couldn't make promises he didn't know he could keep. I don't know, buddy, but I'm going to try. Good. Because I think Mommy misses you. What makes you think that? She talks to your picture, and she smiles. But then she cries. I think she's sad happy. Sad happy. That was one way to put it. They arrived at the hospital just after 7. Knox carried Felix through the corridors to Tessa's room. The door was open. Tessa was awake, sitting up, picking at a tray of hospital food. When she saw Felix, her face lit up. Baby! Felix ran to her, climbed onto the bed. Tessa held him tight. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Mommy. But Daddy took good care of me. We had grilled cheese and I took a bath and I have new pajamas and we watched a movie and… Tessa laughed through her tears. Slow down. Tell me everything. Felix launched into a detailed account of his evening. Tessa listened, smiling, but her eyes kept drifting to Knox. He stood by the door, watching them. Thank you, Tessa said quietly. Knox nodded. How are you feeling? Tired? Anxious? They're supposed to bring the test results this morning. I'll stay, if you want. Tessa hesitated, then nodded. I'd like that. Knox pulled up a chair, sat down. They waited in silence. Felix chattered between them, playing with the remote control for the bed, making it go up and down. At 8:30, Dr. Patel knocked and entered. Good morning. She looked at the chart in her hands. I have your results. Tessa gripped Felix's hand. Okay. Dr. Patel sat down. The good news is it's not cancer. Tessa exhaled, a sob of relief escaping. Thank God, Knox whispered. However, Dr. Patel continued, you do have several serious conditions that require immediate attention. Severe iron deficiency anemia, hypothyroidism, and early-stage adrenal fatigue. What does that mean? It means your body has been under extreme stress for an extended period. You've been in survival mode, and it's starting to shut down. Can it be fixed? Yes, but it requires significant lifestyle changes. You'll need medication for your thyroid, iron infusions for the anemia, and most importantly, you need rest. Real rest. No working. No stress. At least 3 months. Tessa's face went pale. 3 months? I can't. I have bills. Rent. Felix needs, Ms. Brennan, if you don't do this, your body will shut down completely. Next time you collapse, you might not wake up. The words hung in the air. Felix looked up at his mother. Mommy? Tessa pulled him close. It's okay, baby. But her voice shook. Knox leaned forward. I'll take care of it. Tessa's head snapped toward him. No. Tessa, I said no. This isn't negotiable. You need help. I don't need your charity. It's not charity. It's me taking care of my family. I'm not your family anymore. Yes, you are. The words echoed. Dr. Patel cleared her throat. I'll give you some time to discuss. But Ms. Brennan, I need an answer. Will you commit to the treatment plan? Tessa closed her eyes. Yes. Good. I'll have the nurse bring your discharge papers. You can go home today, but I want you back here in 1 week for a follow-up. Okay. Dr. Patel left. Tessa looked at Knox. I'll figure it out. I always do. How? You can't work. You can't pay rent. What's your plan? I'll ask for an extension. Or I'll find something I can do from home. Tessa, listen to yourself. You're sick. You need help. And I'll get it. Just not from you. Why not? Because I can't owe you anything else. Her voice broke. Felix started crying. Scared by the raised voices, Tessa immediately softened. Shoo, baby. It's okay. Mommy's sorry. Knox stood, ran a hand through his hair. Tessa, you don't owe me anything. But Felix needs you healthy. And if that means swallowing your pride and letting me help, then that's what you need to do. Tessa looked at him, tears streaming down her face. I can't be dependent on you again. You're not. This is temporary. Just until you're back on your feet. And then what? You go back to your life and we go back to ours? If that's what you want. Liar. Knox stopped. What? You said you still love me. So don't stand there and pretend this is just about Felix. You want us back. Knox's jaw tightened. You're right. I do. But that's not why I'm offering to help. I'm offering because it's the right thing to do. Because you're the mother of my son. And because whether you believe it or not, I care about you. Tessa looked away. Knox softened his voice. Let me do this. Please, let me help. A long silence. Then, finally, Tessa whispered. Okay. 3 months. I'll let you help for 3 months. But after that, we figure out a real plan. Deal. Knox let out a breath he didn't know he'd been holding. Tessa looked at Felix, who had stopped crying but was still sniffling. How do you feel about staying with Daddy for a little while? Felix's face lit up. Really? Really? What about you? I'll be there too. Felix looked between them. Like a family? Tessa's throat tightened. Yeah, baby. Like a family. Knox felt something in his chest crack open. This was his chance. Maybe his only chance. And he wasn't going to waste it. 2 hours later, Tessa was discharged. Knox brought the SUV around, helped her into the passenger seat. Felix climbed into the back. As Knox drove through the city, Tessa stared out the window. This was a mistake, she thought. Letting him back in. Letting herself hope. Because hope was dangerous. Hope was the thing that had broken her the first time. But as she glanced in the side mirror and saw Felix smiling in the back seat, she thought maybe, just maybe, it was worth the risk. Knox pulled up to the penthouse. Tessa's eyes went wide. This is where you live? Knox nodded. She looked at the gleaming glass tower, the valet parking, the doorman. Then she looked down at her worn jeans and Felix's faded jacket. Can't, she whispered. Can't what? Be here. Live here. It's too much. It's just a place. It's a palace. Knox turned to her. Tessa, I don't care where we are. I just want you safe. Please. She closed her eyes. Took a breath. Okay. They rode the elevator to the 58th floor in silence. When the doors opened, Felix gasped. The penthouse was massive. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the entire city. Modern furniture. Polished concrete floors. Art on the walls that probably cost more than Tessa made in a year. Whoa, Felix breathed. Mrs. Chun appeared. A warm smile on her face. Welcome home. Tessa felt tears prick her eyes. This wasn't home. Home was the tiny apartment with the peeling paint and the broken step. But maybe, just for a little while, she could pretend. Mrs. Chun led them down a wide hallway. Her footsteps were quiet against the polished floors. Tessa followed, holding Felix's hand, feeling more and more out of place with every step. I've prepared the master suite for you, Mrs. Chun said to Tessa, and the room next door for the young man. Tessa opened her mouth to protest, to say she didn't need the master suite, that a couch would be fine. But Knox spoke first. Thank you, Mrs. Chun. That's perfect. The housekeeper opened a door at the end of the hall. Tessa stepped inside and her breath caught. The room was enormous, bigger than her entire apartment. A king-sized bed with crisp white linens sat against one wall. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered a panoramic view of the city. There was a sitting area with a couch and chairs. A door that led to what looked like a massive bathroom. This is too much, Tessa whispered. Knox stood in the doorway. You need rest. You need comfort. This is both. Where will you sleep? My room is on the other side of the penthouse. You'll have complete privacy. Tessa nodded slowly. She was too tired to argue. Felix tugged her hand. Mommy, can I see my room? Mrs. Chun smiled. Right this way, young man. She led Felix next door. Tessa and Knox followed. Felix's room had been transformed. Race car bedding, shelves full of toys and books, a small desk with crayons and paper, stuffed animals arranged on a chair. Felix ran into the room, his eyes wide with wonder. "Is this all for me?" "All for you," Knox said. Felix picked up a stuffed dinosaur, hugged it tight. "This is the best room ever." Tessa felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She turned away so Felix wouldn't see. But Knox saw. He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "Tessa." She shook her head. "I'm fine. You don't have to be strong right now." "Yes, I do. Because if I stop, if I let myself feel everything I'm feeling, I'll fall apart. And I can't fall apart. Not in front of Felix." Knox wanted to pull her into his arms, wanted to tell her it was okay to fall apart, that he'd be there to catch her. But he didn't. Not yet. Mrs. Chun cleared her throat gently. "I'll prepare lunch. Please make yourselves comfortable." She left quietly. Felix was already on the floor, lining up toy cars. Tessa stood in the doorway watching him. "He looks happy." "He is. I haven't seen him this happy in a long time." Knox moved to stand beside her. "He deserves to be happy. So do you." Tessa didn't respond. After a moment, Knox said, "I'll let you get settled. If you need anything, I'm just down the hall." "Knox." He turned back. "Thank you for all of this. I know I've been difficult, but I am grateful." Knox's expression softened. "You're not difficult. You're scared. There's a difference." He left before she could respond. Tessa stood there for a moment, then walked into the master suite, closed the door, and finally let herself break. She sat on the edge of the bed and sobbed, quietly so Felix wouldn't hear, but deeply, releasing 3 years of pain and exhaustion and loneliness. She cried for the life she'd tried to build alone. For the nights she'd gone to bed hungry. For the mornings she'd woken up so tired she couldn't see straight. She cried for Felix. For the childhood he deserved but she couldn't give him. And she cried for Knox. For the man she'd loved. The man she'd left. The man who was back in her life and making her hope again. When the tears finally stopped, Tessa lay back on the bed. It was the most comfortable bed she'd ever been in. She closed her eyes. And for the first time in 3 years, she slept without fear. When Tessa woke, the room was dark. She sat up, disoriented. The clock on the nightstand read 7:15. She'd slept for 6 hours. Panic shot through her. Felix. Where was Felix? She jumped up. Too fast. The dizziness hit her immediately. She grabbed the nightstand to steady herself. The door opened and Knox appeared. "Hey, easy. You okay?" "Felix." "Where's Felix?" "He's fine. He's with me. We've been hanging out." Tessa's heart rate slowed. "I didn't mean to sleep that long. You needed it. Come on. We saved you some dinner." Knox led her down the hall to the main living area. Felix was on the couch watching a movie. When he saw Tessa, he jumped up. "Mommy, you're awake." Tessa pulled him close. "Hey, baby. I'm sorry I was asleep so long. It's okay. Daddy and I had fun. We built a racetrack and we made cookies and we watched 2 movies. Tessa looked at Knox over Felix's head. "You baked cookies?" Knox shrugged, a small smile on his face. Mrs. Chun supervised. "I mostly just watched." Despite everything, Tessa laughed. It was a small laugh but real. Knox's chest tightened at the sound. He'd missed that laugh. "Come eat," he said. They sat at the dining table. Mrs. Chun had left plates of food warming in the oven. Grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes. Tessa stared at the plate. "It's too much." You need to eat. Knox, I can't eat all this. Then eat what you can. Tessa picked up her fork, took a small bite, then another. Before she knew it, she'd eaten half the plate. Knox watched her carefully. When was the last time you had a real meal? Tessa set down her fork. I don't know. A while. Define a while. She looked away. Couple weeks, maybe. Knox's jaw clenched, but he kept his voice calm. That stops now. 3 meals a day. No arguments. Tessa wanted to argue. Wanted to assert some kind of independence. But she was too tired. Okay. After dinner, they settled in the living room. Felix curled up between them on the couch. The movie played, but Tessa wasn't watching. She was hyper-aware of Knox beside her, of the warmth radiating from him, of the way his arm rested along the back of the couch, not quite touching her but close enough. Felt domestic, comfortable, like a family, and that terrified her. Felix fell asleep halfway through the movie. Knox carefully scooped him up. I'll put him to bed. Tessa stood. I can do it. Tessa. Knox's voice was gentle. Let me. She hesitated, then nodded. Knox carried Felix to his room, tucked him in. The boy didn't even stir. When Knox returned to the living room, Tessa was standing by the windows, looking out at the city lights. I forgot how beautiful the view is from up here, she said softly. Knox moved to stand beside her. You've been here before? Once. 4 years ago. You brought me here after we found out I was pregnant. Knox remembered. He'd wanted to show her the life they could have, the future he was building for them. You hated it, Knox said. Tessa shook her head. I didn't hate it. I was overwhelmed by it. There's a difference. She turned to face him. Knox, this penthouse, your life, it's amazing. But it's not me. It's never been me. What is you? Something smaller, simpler, place where I can breathe. You couldn't breathe here? Not when you were never home to share it with me. The truth hung between them. Knox nodded slowly. I know. I failed you. You didn't fail me. You just chose differently. I chose wrong. Tessa looked back out the window. We both made mistakes. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Knox said, I got a call from my investigator today. About the lawyers? Yeah. He found something. Emails between Marcus and Richard. Proof they were working together to keep us apart. Tessa's breath caught. Why? That's what I'm trying to figure out. But there's more. Marcus received several large payments over the past 3 years. From an offshore account. Someone paid him to sabotage us. Who? I don't know yet. But I will. Tessa wrapped her arms around herself. This is insane. Why would someone do this? Knox's expression darkened. I have some theories. But I need more proof before I can act. What kind of theories? There are people who benefit from me being distracted. Alone. People who've wanted control of my company for years. If I was focused on my family, on my marriage, I'd be harder to manipulate. Tessa turned to him. You think someone destroyed our marriage for business reasons? I think someone saw an opportunity and took it. That's sick. Knox's hands clenched into fists. When I find out who it was, they're going to regret it. Tessa had never seen this side of Knox. This cold, dangerous side. It should have scared her. Instead, it made her feel protected. What happens now? She asked. Now? I keep digging. And I make sure Marcus and Richard never hurt anyone else. And us? Knox looked at her. Really looked at her. What do you want to happen with us? Tessa's heart pounded. I don't know. 3 years ago, I would have said we were done. That too much had happened. But now, she paused. Now I don't know what I feel. Knox took a step closer. Can I tell you what I feel? Tessa nodded, not trusting her voice. I feel like I've been given a second chance I don't deserve. I feel like every moment with you and Felix is a gift. And I feel terrified that I'm gonna mess it up again. You won't. How do you know? Because the Knox I knew 3 years ago wouldn't have dropped everything to come save me. Wouldn't have opened his home. Wouldn't have baked cookies with our son. She smiled slightly, even with supervision. Knox's lips quirked. I've changed. So have I. They stood close now. Close enough that Tessa could see the flecks of gold in Knox's dark eyes. Close enough that she could feel the pull between them. Knox reached up slowly, giving her time to pull away, brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. Tessa's breath hitched. "I want to kiss you," Knox whispered. "But I won't. Not until you're ready. Not until you're sure." Tessa's heart raced. Part of her wanted to close the distance, to feel his lips on hers, to remember what it was like to be loved by him. But the other part, the part that had been broken and was still healing, held her back. "I'm not ready," she whispered. Knox nodded, dropped his hand. "I'll wait." "For how long?" "As long as it takes." "Before we continue, I have to tell you something. If this story is touching your heart, if you're feeling every emotion right alongside Tessa and Knox, do me a favor. Hit that like button. Share this with someone who believes in second chances. And drop a comment. Tell me where you're watching from. Or just say, "I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline." Your support means everything. Now let's see what happens next. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Mornings, Knox would make breakfast. Well, Mrs. Chun would make breakfast and Knox would pretend he'd helped. Felix thought it was hilarious. Tessa would sleep late, her body still recovering, still exhausted from years of running on empty. Afternoons, Knox worked from home, taking calls in his office while Felix played. Tessa would sit in the living room, reading or just staring out the window. Evenings were family time, dinner together, movies, board games that Felix barely understood but loved anyway. It was domestic, simple, everything Tessa had wanted 3 years ago, and it was breaking down her walls piece by piece. On the 4th day, Tessa woke to voices in the living room. She pulled on a robe and walked out. Knox was on the phone, pacing, his voice sharp. "I don't care what the board says. I'm not coming back until I'm ready." A pause. "Then tell them to vote me out. See how that works for them." Another pause. "Vanessa, I'm done with this conversation. Handle it." He hung up, ran a hand through his hair, turned and saw Tessa standing there. "Sorry. I didn't mean to wake you." "Who's Vanessa?" "My business partner. She's been running things while I've been here." "She doesn't sound happy about it." Knox shrugged. "She'll manage." Tessa moved into the kitchen, poured herself coffee. Knox followed. "You don't have to stay here, Tessa said quietly. "If you need to work." "I don't need to. I want to." "Knox, you're a billionaire. You have a company, responsibilities. And I also have a son I've missed 4 years with. And a woman He stopped. "A woman you what?" Knox set down his coffee, looked at her. "A woman I never stopped loving." Tessa's breath caught. "Knox, it's true. I know you're not ready to hear it. I know you need time. But I'm not going to lie to you, Tessa. I want this. I want us. I want to be a family. We can't just pick up where we left off." "I know. So we'll start over. Build something new. What if it doesn't work? Then at least we tried." Tessa looked into her coffee cup. "I'm scared. So am I." She looked up at him. "You don't seem scared." "I'm terrified. Every day I wake up afraid you're going to realize you don't need me, that you're better off alone." "I'm not better off alone," Tessa whispered. "I'm just used to it. You don't have to be anymore." Before Tessa could respond, Felix ran into the kitchen. "Daddy, can we go to the park today?" Knox looked at Tessa. "That okay with you?" She nodded. "Yeah. Fresh air sounds good." An hour later, they were at the park. The same park where Knox used to take Tessa when they were dating, before everything got complicated. Felix ran ahead to the playground. Knox and Tessa walked slowly behind. "Do you remember this place?" Knox asked. "Of course. You proposed to me here." Knox smiled at the memory. "You said yes before I even finished asking. Because I knew. I knew I wanted to spend my life with you. What changed? Tessa was quiet for a long moment. You did. Or maybe I did. Or maybe we both did. We wanted different things. Did we? Or did we just stop talking about what we wanted? Tessa didn't have an answer. They sat on a bench. Watched Felix climb the jungle gym. He's fearless, Knox said. He gets that from you. No, he gets that from you. You're the strongest person I know, Tessa. She laughed bitterly. I passed out on my kitchen floor because I forgot to eat. You survived 3 years alone, working 3 jobs, raising a child, never asking for help. That's not weakness. That's strength. Tessa's eyes filled with tears. I didn't feel strong. I felt like I was drowning. Knox reached over, took her hand. You don't have to drown anymore. Tessa looked down at their joined hands. Felt right, natural, and that scared her most of all. They stayed at the park for 2 hours. Felix played until he was exhausted. Then they walked back to the penthouse, Felix holding both their hands, swinging between them. People smiled at them as they passed. A happy family. If only they knew the truth. That night, after Felix was in bed, Knox's phone rang. It was his investigator. Talk to me, Knox said, stepping into his office. I found the source of the payments to Marcus Hale. Who? Vanessa Hartwell. Knox froze. What? She's been funneling money through offshore accounts for 3 years, paying Marcus to keep you and Tessa separated. Why would she? Knox stopped. The answer hit him. The company. Exactly. I dug deeper. Vanessa's been systematically positioning herself to take over. She's got board members in her pocket. Investors who think you're distracted and unreliable. If she could keep you isolated, keep you focused only on work, she could manipulate you. But I wasn't focused on work. I was falling apart, which made you even easier to control. Knox, she's been playing you for years. Knox's blood ran cold. How much proof do we have? Enough to bury her. Emails, financial records, testimony from Marcus once he realizes he's going down with her. Send everything to my lawyer. The real one, not Marcus. I want charges filed by tomorrow. Done. Knox hung up, sat in the dark of his office. Vanessa, his business partner, his friend, or so he'd thought. She'd destroyed his marriage, kept him from his son, all for power. Knox had never felt rage like this before, but he couldn't act on it. Not yet. He needed to be smart. He stood, walked back to the living room. Tessa was on the couch, reading. She looked up when he entered. Everything okay? Knox debated telling her, but she deserved the truth. He sat down, told her everything. By the time he finished, Tessa was pale. Vanessa did this? Knox nodded. Why? Power. Control. She wanted my company and she knew the only way to get it was to isolate me. So she destroyed our family. Yes. Tessa stood, paced, her hands shaking. I don't even know. I want to hurt her. Knox stood too. You won't have to. The law will handle it. That's not enough. Tessa. She turned to him, tears streaming down her face. Knox, we lost 3 years. Felix grew up without a father. I worked myself into the ground. You were alone. All because she wanted a company? I know. It's not enough. Legal consequences aren't enough. What do you want me to do? I want you to destroy her. Knox moved closer, cupped her face in his hands. I will. I promise you. She will pay for what she did to us. Tessa leaned into his touch. Good. They stood like that for a long moment. Then Knox said, I need to tell you something else. What? I spoke to a family lawyer today. A real one. I'm filing for full restoration of my parental rights to Felix. And I'm suing Marcus and Richard for fraud and malpractice. Okay. But I need your permission, because this is going to get messy. There will be press. Tension. I don't want to put you and Felix through that if you're not ready. Tessa pulled back, looked him in the eye. Do it. Whatever it takes. I want everyone to know what they did. Knox nodded. Then it's done. The next week was chaos. The lawsuit hit the news. Billionaire Knox Aldridge sues former lawyers for conspiracy and fraud. Reporters camped outside the building. Knox's company went into damage control, and Vanessa Hartwell was arrested. The charges were extensive: fraud, conspiracy, embezzlement. Knox watched the news coverage with grim satisfaction. Tessa watched with him. "Is it wrong that I'm glad?" she asked. "No. She deserves everything she gets." Felix wandered in. Saw the news. "Why is there a picture of our building on TV?" Knox turned off the television. "Just boring grown-up stuff, buddy." Felix shrugged. "Okay, can we have pancakes?" Tessa laughed. "Yeah, baby, we can have pancakes." In the kitchen, while Knox attempted to make pancakes and Felix gave him very serious instructions, Tessa's phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize. She answered cautiously. "Hello? Tessa Brennan?" "Yes. This is Amanda Cross from City General Hospital. I'm calling because we have an opening in our oncology department. Your application from 3 years ago was flagged in our system. Are you still interested in a nursing position?" Tessa's heart stopped. "Yes. I was a nurse. I haven't worked in that capacity in years." "We're aware. But your credentials are excellent and we're desperate for experienced staff. Would you be available for an interview?" Tessa looked at Knox and Felix, at the life that was slowly building around her. "Can I call you back?" "Of course. But we'd love to have you in for a conversation." "Thank you. I'll be in touch." Tessa hung up. Knox looked over. "Everything okay? Job offer. Nursing position at City General." "That's great." Knox's smile was genuine. "Is that what you want?" "I don't know. I haven't been a nurse in so long. And Felix needs me. And I'm still recovering. But I miss it. I miss helping people. I miss feeling useful." "You are useful. You know what I mean." Knox flipped a pancake. "Badly. Then do it." "What?" "Take the job. If it's what you want." "Knox, I can't. I have 3 more months of recovery. And Felix is in preschool 4 days a week. And you're getting stronger every day. If you want to work." Tessa felt tears prick her eyes. "You'd be okay with that?" "Tessa, I don't want to be the person who holds you back. I want to be the person who supports you. Whatever you decide." She crossed the room, wrapped her arms around him. Knox froze for a moment, then carefully, slowly, put his arms around her. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For being different than you were." "I'm trying." "I know." They stood like that until Felix yelled, "Daddy, the pancake is on fire." Knox pulled back, saw smoke rising from the pan, swore under his breath. Tessa laughed, a real full laugh, and Knox thought that sound was worth every burned pancake in the world. 2 weeks later, Tessa went for her interview at City General. Knox stayed home with Felix. Tessa was nervous. She wore one of the outfits Mrs. Chun had bought for her. Simple but professional. Knox walked her to the door. "You're going to be amazing," he said. "What if I forgot everything?" "You didn't." "What if they think I'm too old? Too out of practice?" "They won't." "Knox." He took her hands. "Tessa, breathe. You're one of the most capable people I've ever known. They'd be lucky to have you." She smiled. "Okay. Good luck." "Thanks." She kissed Felix goodbye, hugged him tight. Then she left. The interview went better than expected. The head of oncology, Dr. Sarah Mitchell, was warm and understanding. "We know you've been out of the field," she said, "but we believe in second chances. And your record speaks for itself. I appreciate that. When could you start?" Tessa thought about it. "I need another month to make sure I'm fully recovered and to arrange childcare." "That works perfectly. We'll have all the onboarding ready by then." Tessa left the hospital feeling lighter than she had in years. She had a job, a real job, something that was hers. When she got back to the penthouse, Knox and Felix were building a blanket fort in the living room. Mommy! Felix ran to her. Look what we made. It's amazing, baby. Knox stood, brushed off his jeans. How'd it go? I got the job. Knox's face broke into a huge smile. Tessa, that's incredible. I start in a month. He crossed the room, pulled her into a hug. I'm so proud of you. Tessa hugged him back. For the first time, it didn't feel scary. Felt right. That night, they celebrated. Mrs. Chun made Tessa's favorite meal. They had cake. Felix got to stay up late. And when Felix finally crashed, exhausted and happy, Knox and Tessa sat on the couch. I have something for you, Knox said. He handed her an envelope. What's this? Open it. Tessa opened it carefully. Inside was a check, made out to her, for an amount that made her gasp. Knox, I can't. It's back pay. For 3 years of child support I should have been giving you. You didn't know, but I should have. And now I do. So please, take it. This is too much. This is what you're owed. Use it for whatever you want. Save it. Invest it. By Felix the World. Tessa stared at the check. This changed everything. She wasn't dependent anymore. She had her own money, her own job, her own life. And yet, she looked at Knox. I don't want to leave. The words came out before she could stop them. Knox went very still. What? When the 3 months are up. I don't want to leave. I don't want to take Felix and go back to some apartment. I want. She stopped. I want this. Whatever this is. Knox's eyes searched hers. Are you sure? No. I'm terrified. But I'm sure that I want to try. Knox moved closer. Tessa. I'm not saying it'll be easy, or that I'm ready for everything. But I'm ready to try. That's all I need. He cupped her face. Can I kiss you now? Tessa's heart raced. Yeah. You can kiss me now. Knox leaned in slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. She didn't. Their lips met softly, tentatively, and then deeper. 3 years of longing poured into that kiss. 3 years of pain and hope and love that had never really died. When they pulled apart, both were breathing hard. I love you, Knox whispered. I never stopped. I love you too. God help me, I never stopped either. Knox rested his forehead against hers. We're gonna make this work. Promise? Promise. The next month passed in a blur. Tessa started her job at the hospital. It was hard at first. Relearning protocols. Getting back into the rhythm. But she loved it. Knox cut back his hours at the company. Spent more time at home. More time with Felix. They fell into a routine. A real routine. Like a real family. And slowly, carefully, Tessa let her walls come down. She moved her things into Knox's room. Not all at once. A little at a time. First a toothbrush. Then some clothes. Then one night she just didn't go back to the guest room. Knox woke up with her beside him and thought he might be dreaming. But when she opened her eyes and smiled at him, he knew it was real. Good morning, she whispered. Best morning of my life. She laughed. You're being dramatic. Am I? He kissed her. Slow and sweet. And Tessa thought maybe, just maybe, they were going to be okay. But of course, life is never that simple. It was a Tuesday when everything shifted again. Tessa came home from work looking pale. Knox noticed immediately. Hey, what's wrong? Nothing. I'm fine. Tessa. She sat down heavily. There was a woman at the hospital today. In the oncology ward. Stage 4. And she looked so much like my mom. Knox sat beside her. Took her hand. It just reminded me, Tessa continued, how fragile everything is. How fast it can all fall apart. Hey, look at me. She did. We're okay. You're okay. Felix is okay. We're all okay. Are we? Yes. How do you know? Because I'm not letting go this time. No matter what. Tessa leaned into him. I'm scared, Knox. Of what? That I'll wake up and this will all be gone. That I'll be back in that apartment. Alone. That this was all just a dream. Knox wrapped his arms around her. This is real. I'm real. We're real. Promise? Promise. They sat like that until Felix came running in, excited about something he'd learned at preschool. And the moment passed, but the fear lingered. A few days later, Knox came home with a surprise. Close your eyes, he told Felix. Why? Just do it. Felix closed his eyes. Knox led him to the living room. Okay, open. Felix opened his eyes and screamed with joy. There, in the middle of the living room, was a puppy. A golden retriever with a red bow around its neck. Is that for me? Knox grinned. All yours, buddy. Felix dropped to his knees. The puppy immediately jumped all over him, licking his face. Tessa stood in the doorway. Knox. He turned. Saw her expression. Is this okay? I should have asked first. But Tessa was smiling. It's perfect. Yeah. Felix named the puppy Hero, and Hero became part of the family immediately. That weekend, they took Hero to the park, watched him chase squirrels and play with other dogs. Felix was laughing so hard he could barely breathe. Tessa looked at Knox. Thank you. For this. For all of it. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do. Because 3 months ago, I thought my life was over. And now, she gestured around. Now I have everything. Knox pulled her close. So do I. They stood like that, watching their son play, and for the first time in a long time, everything felt right. But then Tessa's phone rang. It was Dr. Patel. Ms. Brennan, I need you to come in for a follow-up. Some of your recent blood work showed irregularities. Tessa's stomach dropped. What kind of irregularities? I'd rather discuss it in person. Can you come in tomorrow? Yes, of course. Tessa hung up. Her hands were shaking. Knox noticed immediately. What's wrong? Dr. Patel wants to see me. Something about my blood work. Okay, we'll go together. Knox, no arguments. We're in this together. The next day, they sat in Dr. Patel's office. Felix was with Mrs. Chun. Dr. Patel looked at her chart, then at Tessa. The good news is your anemia is improving. Your thyroid levels are stabilizing. And the bad news? You're pregnant. The room went silent. Tessa stared at her. What? You're about 8 weeks along. I'm surprised you didn't notice the symptoms, but given your recent health issues, it's understandable. Tessa couldn't breathe. Pregnant. She was pregnant. She looked at Knox. He looked stunned, completely frozen. Is the baby okay? Tessa finally managed to ask. Dr. Patel smiled. Perfectly healthy. But given your recent health scare, this is going to be considered a high-risk pregnancy. You'll need frequent monitoring, lots of rest, and absolutely no stress. Okay, congratulations. Dr. Patel left them alone. Tessa and Knox sat in silence. Finally, Knox spoke. A baby. Yeah. Are you? How do you feel? Terrified. Me too. But? Tessa looked at him. But also happy. Is that crazy? No. Knox reached for her hand. It's not crazy. We're barely back together. We're still figuring things out. And now we're having a baby. Knox moved his chair closer. Tessa, we can do this. Can we? We made it through hell to get here. We can make it through anything. Tessa felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I'm scared. So am I. But I'm also happier than I've been in years. Yeah. He kissed her softly. We're having a baby, Tessa whispered. We're having a baby, Knox confirmed. And despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, they both smiled. That night, they told Felix. He was confused at first. A baby? Where? In Mommy's tummy, Knox explained. Felix's eyes went wide. Really? Really? Can I see it? Not yet. It's very tiny right now. Will it be a boy or a girl? We don't know yet. Felix thought about that. I hope it's a boy, so I can teach him to play cars. Tessa laughed. And if it's a girl, then I'll teach her too. Girls can like cars. Knox ruffled his hair. That's my boy. Felix hugged Tessa's stomach. Hi, baby. I'm your big brother. I'm gonna take care of you. Tessa's heart swelled. This was her family. Messy, complicated, unexpected. But hers. The pregnancy changed things. Tessa had to cut back her hours at the hospital. Dr. Mitchell was understanding. Knox became even more protective, constantly asking if she was okay, if she needed anything. It drove Tessa crazy. Knox, I'm pregnant, not dying. I know. I just want to make sure you're okay. I'm fine. Stop hovering. But secretly, she loved it. At 12 weeks, they went for the first ultrasound. Knox held Tessa's hand as the technician moved the wand over her belly. And then they heard it. The heartbeat. Strong. Fast. Perfect. Tessa started crying. Knox's eyes were wet too. There's your baby, the technician said, pointing to the screen. It looked like a blob. But it was their blob. Do you want to know the gender? Tessa looked at Knox. Do we? He shrugged. Up to you. Let's wait. Surprise ourselves. Okay. They left with a grainy photo and hearts full of hope. That night, Knox made dinner. Well, he tried. Tessa sat at the counter, watching him fumble with vegetables. You know we have a housekeeper who cooks, right? I want to do this. Why? Because I want to take care of you. Tessa smiled. You're sweet. I'm serious. I miss so much with Felix. I'm not missing anything this time. You're going to be there? For everything? Everything. Doctor's appointments. Cravings at 2 in the morning. Labor. All of it. Even the gross parts. Especially the gross parts. Tessa laughed. Okay then. Knox came around the counter. Knelt in front of her. Tessa, I know we're doing this backwards. Baby first, then figuring out us. But I don't care. I want this. I want you. I want our family. I want that too. He pulled a small box from his pocket. Tessa's breath caught. I bought this 4 years ago. The day I found out you were pregnant with Felix. I was going to propose. But then everything fell apart and I never got the chance. He opened the box. Inside was a ring. Simple. Elegant. Exactly Tessa's style. I'm not asking you to marry me tomorrow. Or even this year. I'm just asking you to say that someday, when you're ready, you'll be my wife. Tessa was crying. Full on sobbing. Is that a yes? Yes. Someday. When I'm ready. Yes. Knox slid the ring onto her finger. Fit perfectly. Just like everything else finally did. Listen, if you've made it this far in the story, I need you to do something for me. Hit that subscribe button. Because stories like this, stories about love and second chances in family, these are what Mr. Hearthline is all about. And drop a comment. Tell me how this story makes you feel. Or just say, I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline. Let's keep building this community together. Now, let's finish this story. The next few months were a blur of joy and chaos. Tessa's belly grew. Felix talked to the baby every night. Knox baby-proofed the entire penthouse. And slowly, piece by piece, they built a life. Not perfect, but real. There were arguments. Of course there were. About paint colors for the nursery. About baby names. About whether Knox was being too overprotective. But they worked through them. Because this time they talked. Really talked. No more silence. No more assumptions. Just honest, messy communication. And it worked. At 20 weeks, they found out the gender. A girl. Knox cried. Actually cried. A daughter. Felix was thrilled. I'm going to teach her everything. Tessa watched them and felt complete. The nursery came together. Soft pinks and creams. A crib that Knox assembled himself, even though it took him 4 hours and a lot of swearing. Felix helped pick out stuffed animals. Hero supervised, tail wagging. It was perfect. 30 weeks. Tessa went into early labor. Knox rushed her to the hospital, Felix and Mrs. Chin following. It was terrifying. Too early. The baby was too early. But the doctors stopped the labor. Gave Tessa medication. Put her on strict bed rest. She has to make it to at least 37 weeks, Dr. Patel said. Tessa nodded, pale and scared. Knox didn't leave her side. Felix curled up on the hospital bed with her. I don't want the baby to come yet. She's not ready. Tessa kissed his head. She'll come when she's ready, baby. And she did. At 38 weeks, on a snowy January morning, Tessa woke up with contractions. Knox timed them, called the doctor, got Tessa to the hospital. Felix stayed with Mrs. Chun, who promised to bring him as soon as the baby was born. Labor was long, painful, exhausting, But Knox was there, every second, holding Tessa's hand, wiping her forehead, whispering encouragement. You're amazing. You're so strong. I love you. At 3 a.m, their daughter was born. 6 pounds, 8 ounces. Perfect. Tessa held her and sobbed. She's beautiful. Knox touched the baby's tiny hand. She's perfect. What should we name her? They'd debated names for months, never settled on one. But looking at her now, Knox knew. Grace. Tessa looked up at him. Grace? Because that's what she is. Grace. A second chance. A new beginning. Tessa smiled through her tears. Grace Brennan Aldrich. Perfect. When Felix met his sister, he was so gentle, so careful. She's so small, he whispered. She'll get bigger, Tessa said. Can I hold her? Knox helped him, showed him how to support her head. Felix looked down at Grace with such love that Tessa started crying again. Hi, Grace. I'm your big brother. I'm going to protect you forever. And Tessa knew he would. They went home 3 days later. The penthouse was full of flowers, balloons, gifts. Mrs. Chun had prepared everything. And for the first time, it felt like home. Not Knox's home. Not Tessa's home. Their home. The first few weeks were hard. Grace didn't sleep. Tessa was exhausted. Knox tried to help but didn't always know how. But they figured it out. Together. Knox took paternity leave. Something he never would have done before. He changed diapers, gave bottles, walked the floors at 2 a.m. when Grace wouldn't stop crying. And Tessa fell in love with him all over again. This was the man she'd married. The man she'd always known he could be. Present. Involved. Loving. One night, when Grace was 6 weeks old, Tessa found Knox in the nursery. He was holding Grace, rocking her gently, singing softly. Tessa stood in the doorway watching. Knox looked up, saw her, smiled. Can't sleep? She shook her head. Came to check on you too. We're good. Just having some daddy-daughter time. Tessa moved closer, kissed his cheek. You're a good father. I'm trying. You're succeeding. Knox looked down at Grace. I don't want to mess this up. You won't. How do you know? Because you care too much to mess it up. They stood together in the soft glow of the nightlight, their daughter between them, and Tessa thought this was what happiness felt like. When Grace was 3 months old, Knox asked Tessa to marry him. Again, properly this time. He took her to the park where he'd proposed the first time, set up a picnic. Felix and Grace were with Mrs. Chun. It was just the two of them. I know I already gave you the ring, Knox said, but I want to do this right. Knox. Tessa Brennan. You are the strongest, most incredible woman I've ever known. You gave me a second chance I didn't deserve. You gave me a family. You gave me a reason to be better. He got down on one knee. Will you marry me? For real this time. No someday. Just yes. Tessa was crying. Yes. Yes, I'll marry me. He stood, kissed her, and it felt like coming home. They got married 2 months later. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. Felix was the ring bearer. Grace slept through the whole thing in Mrs. Chen's arms. Tessa wore a simple white dress. Knox couldn't take his eyes off her. When the officiant said you may kiss the bride, Knox did. And the small crowd cheered. At the reception, Knox gave a speech. 3 years ago, I lost the love of my life because I was too stubborn and too stupid to fight for her. I thought success meant building an empire. But real success is this. His voice broke. It's a 4-year-old boy who calls me daddy. It's a baby girl who has my eyes. It's a woman who gave me more chances than I deserved. That's success. That's everything. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. Tessa's speech was simpler. I spent 3 years alone, scared, convinced I'd never be happy again. And then my son made a phone call. The wrong number, the right person, and everything changed. She looked at Knox. You saved us. But more than that, you chose us. Every day you choose us. And I choose you too. Always. They danced to their first song. The same song from their first wedding. But this time it meant more. Because they'd fought for this. Bled for this. Earned this. Felix danced with Tessa. Stepping on her toes. Making her laugh. Knox held Grace. swayed to the music, and Mrs. Chun took pictures of it all. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, Knox and Tessa stood on the balcony. The city lights spread out before them. "You okay?" Knox asked. "More than okay. No regrets?" "None." She leaned into him. He wrapped his arms around her. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For not giving up." "Never." They stood like that for a long time, and Tessa thought about the journey that had brought them here. The collapse, the phone call, the hospital, the fear, but also the healing, the love, the second chances. Life wasn't perfect. It never would be, but it was theirs, and that was enough. 5 years later, Felix was 9, smart, kind, still obsessed with Spider-Man. Grace was 5, fearless, loud, full of joy, and Tessa and Knox were stronger than ever. They'd learned, grown, changed. Knox still worked, but never at the expense of family. Tessa still nursed, but only part-time, so she could be home when the kids needed her. They'd found balance. It wasn't always easy. There were still hard days, still arguments, still moments of doubt, but they faced them together. One evening, Tessa found an old photo from the day Felix was born. She and Knox looked so young, so happy, so unaware of what was coming. Knox came up behind her, looked over her shoulder. "We were babies ourselves." "Yeah." "Do you ever wish we could go back? Do it differently?" Tessa thought about it, then shook her head. "No, because everything we went through brought us here, and I wouldn't change this for anything." Knox kissed her temple. "Me neither." Felix ran through the room, chasing Hero. Grace was right behind him, squealing with laughter. Tessa and Knox watched their chaos with matching smiles. This was life. Messy, loud, imperfect, and absolutely perfect. That night, after the kids were in bed, Knox pulled Tessa onto the couch. "I have something to tell you." Tessa raised an eyebrow. "Should I be worried?" "No." He smiled. "I'm stepping down as CEO." "What?" "I'm tired, Tessa. Tired of the meetings and the travel and the politics. I want to spend my time here, with you, with the kids. But your company will be fine without me. I'm keeping my shares, staying on the board. But the day-to-day, someone else can have it." "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Tessa's eyes filled with tears. "I love you. I love you too." They curled up together. Content. Complete. And Tessa thought about how different her life could have been if Felix had dialed 911 instead of Knox. If Knox hadn't come. If they hadn't fought for each other. But he had come. And they had fought. And now they had this. Family. A home. A future. Started with a phone call. The wrong number. The right person. And it ended with everything they'd ever wanted. Not because it was easy, but because they chose each other. Every single day. And that made all the difference. Sometimes the wrong call leads you exactly where you're meant to be. Sometimes falling apart is the only way to be put back together. Sometimes the people we think we've lost are just waiting for us to find our way back. Tessa and Knox found their way back. Through pain. Through fear. Through 3 years of separation and a 4-year-old's desperate phone call. They found their way home. To each other. And that's the thing about love. Real love. It doesn't give up. It doesn't quit. It fights. It endures. It forgives. And when given a second chance, it doesn't make the same mistakes twice. Knox and Tessa didn't. They built something new. Something stronger. They learned that success isn't measured in dollars or achievements. It's measured in moments. In a child's laughter. In a partner's touch. In the quiet mornings and the chaotic evenings. In showing up. Every day. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. They learned that pride is poison. That asking for help isn't weakness. That vulnerability is the bravest thing you can offer someone. They learned that family isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And they were present. For all of it. The good days and the bad days. The triumphs and the failures. The ordinary moments that make up a life. They were there. Together. And that's what mattered. Years later, when Felix was grown and Grace was in high school, Knox would look back on that phone call, the one that changed everything, and he'd be grateful. Grateful for a 4-year-old's mistake. Grateful for a second chance. Grateful for a love that refused to die. Because that phone call didn't just save Tessa's life. It saved all of them. It gave them back to each other. And that was worth everything. So if you're watching this and you've lost someone you love, if you've made mistakes, if you think it's too late, it's not. It's never too late to fight for what matters. It's never too late to say I'm sorry. It's never too late to show up. Because sometimes the wrong number is exactly the right call. Sometimes falling is the first step to flying. And sometimes love just needs one more chance to get it right. Give it that chance. Fight for it. Show up for it. Choose it. Every single day. Because in the end, love is all that matters. Not money. Not success. Not pride. Just love. The messy, complicated, beautiful kind. The kind that saves you. The kind that brings you home. Thank you for being here. For listening to this story. For believing in second chances and true love and the power of showing up. If this story touched your heart, please share it. With someone who needs hope. With someone who's lost. With someone who's fighting. Let them know they're not alone. And subscribe to Mr. Hearthline Stories. Because every week we bring you stories that heal. That inspire. That remind you what really matters. Drop a comment below. Tell me where you're watching from. Tell me your story. Or just say, I'm with you, Mr. Hearthline. I read every single one. And I'm grateful for every single one of you. Until next time, remember this. Love is worth fighting for. Family is worth everything. And sometimes the wrong call brings you exactly where you need to be. See you in the next story. This is Mr. Hearthline, reminding you to choose love every single day.